All right. How is everyone doing today? Is today Thursday, Jessica?
Today is Thursday. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm glad to
I
catch
got
you up
my
on that.
I got my decaf here.
Oh,
All right, friends. If you're tuning in, what we're talking about today is actually how to attract moonshot career opportunities. I know there's a lot of pessimism around here in terms of, yeah, there's a lot AI, the emergence of AI, it's taking people's jobs.
good.
Um, there's a lot of noise. It's hard to stand out. The economy is not doing well because of the political environment, all the factors. So maybe I should, lower my expectations. Maybe I should just give up. Maybe I should lower my salary. Maybe I should not go after what I really want. And today we're
Hmm.
going to bust that myth because between Jessica and I, we've helped thousands of people in different states of the economy. I mean, the pandemic was pretty bad, 2020. All of the hiring freezes were going on, and we've helped people through those time periods.
Hmm.
And we're still helping people right now become their own category of one, differentiate themselves in the market, and land opportunities that others would envy and that they thought were impossible.
Yeah.
So, today we're going to talk to you about how that is possible through our concepts and frameworks. And if you are tuning in, please, please
Mhm.
tell us that you're listening. It is so much more fun when you have an audience versus
Mhm.
speaking to the void. Also, like, we want to make sure that whatever we're talking about is tailored to you. You might have questions that we may not have thought of. So
Mhm.
please go in, write to us in the comment. We'll be able to see what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. So, Jessica, you and I, well, first of all, maybe we'll introduce ourselves first. I have a
Yeah.
bad
Who
habit
are we?
forgetting. There's just a bunch of people talking. Who are we to actually talk about any of this? So, Jessica, maybe help people understand like who you help and why you're actually passionate about this reinvention topic.
I'm Jessica Abbey. I'm a career coach, executive coach in San Francisco. And I think one of my key differentiators is no matter who I work with, because I've worked with people from like manager level or even assistant level to C level. So I've worked with tons of different kinds of people, but I treat everybody as an executive. I feel like there is kind of a certain mindset that goes along with embracing that you are an executive. You are unique and you hold unique value, and people need that value. And I treat everybody like that, even if they're an assistant. So that's kind of how I approach things and what I'm passionate about. Because I think that when we own our careers as they belong to us versus they belong to my company, then the loyalty becomes less about who you work for and more about yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, and if you're watching this, you're most likely a follower of mine. You probably know who I am. But just in case you are a new follower and you just fell up on this live, you're like, what is this about? Let me click on this live. Let me see. Yeah, my name is obviously Nada, and I have helped over 1,000 people. So I will say from 2020 to 2024, my main focus was helping people who are basically transitioning into a new career, whether they want to change an industry, whether they want to move up all the way to the C level. Sometimes people feel bored. I know I get bored a lot. I come from the consulting world. I think it's in my DNA to constantly work on new projects. So I get that feeling. And my sweet spot is helping people identify their career sweet spot. But in the last 2 years, I have been helping founders, people who are at the C level, but also owners of their company, really build their brand. And when you're playing in that field, it's no longer about titles and resumes. It's a lot bigger than that. It's about your personal brand. It's about being the category of one in your industry. getting that trust, through your story. So that's why, I'm an authority to speak about this, because I've helped a lot of clients land moonshot roles. Whether it is, oh my goodness, how the heck am I going to land in a big tech company when I don't fit in that little tiny, tidy box? Or
Mhm.
someone who doesn't have a degree and land, at a gaming company. Very unconventional, non-linear careers. So between the two of us, we're very excited to talk to you about this topic, because I know that a lot of you keep asking, well, I wish I could aim for more, but I have no idea how to do it.
And Nada, you and I are not just experts in this on this
We're
topic
going through this.
because we help other people and guide other people, but we've been through this ourselves. I mean, you were just talking about how working for consulting firms, and now you run your own.
Yeah.
So you've reinvented yourself. I've reinvented myself from a career I didn't love to something where I actually love it and help other people become successful in their estimation and their definition of success. I'm not talking about some external view of success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I think one word that comes to my mind is chameleon. That's what
Oh,
I felt I've been in a lot of ways, especially at the beginning of my career.
yeah.
When you and I chatted right before we went live, we talked about how it's important not to chase, market trends. Where you want to start, if you want to get that amazing, dream opportunity, is not see what's out there and what's popular and what people are saying that you should get into, or what's going to give you that job security.
Mm,
We talked about starting within, right?
yeah.
And I will tell you that I probably was making the mistake that a lot of people are making right now, which is being a chameleon and just
Oh,
adapting to whatever environment I'm in.
yeah. You and I both at 100%. I felt like to blend in was the measure of success.
Yeah.
That meant like everybody's happy, everybody has what they need. I've done my job. I've seen the elephant in the room and I've tried to you know eject it in some whatever way. Like I've been the same exact way, and I think that you and I have a lot of similarities kind of
Yeah.
across the board, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. And I think it comes from childhood, right? We talk about this a lot, but it is
Mhm.
true. That's where we got to start when we're helping people navigate career reinventions. I know that this year, when I was at the beginning, I will say, of this year, when I was feeling like, should I still be doing this? Should I not do this? What's next for me in my business? This is more than my 5-year mark in my business. Um, there are points where I felt I plateaued, and I want to grow, just like any professional
Mhm.
in their career. And what helped me the most was to really, really, first of all, there's no shame in saying this, but I've been working with a therapist the entirety of the 5 years of building my business. And
Good,
it
because
helped
this
me.
stuff is not easy.
It helped me so much
Yeah.
because, and you know what's funny? The therapist that I work with, she used to be my high school teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. So she knew me since I
I didn't know
was
that.
in ninth grade.
Oh my god, I didn't
And
know that.
I feel so lucky because she understands me so well,
Mhm.
which is a very rare thing that you can have with a therapist, that they would see you from childhood all the way to present. There are things that I forgot about that she still remembers. And the big benefit, especially this year, of working with her is she helped me understand what was blocking me from moving forward in my career. What are my fears? I know Simon Sinek talks a lot about, start with your why, but I think it's really, really hard to know what your why is when there are layers and layers of childhood trauma covering it up. And
Yeah.
that little voice inside you is lost in that sea of childhood trauma. And I think a big part of me that I had to realize, which is why I got into consulting in the first place, which, by the way, in some ways didn't help with getting me clear in my why,
Mhm.
is, there's that people pleasing of my parents. My parents, they had this big thing of like either you're a doctor, you're an engineer, or
Mhm.
you're a failure. And it's kind of funny. As I'm saying this, I mean, who can relate to this? Please let us know in the chat. I'm sure there's so many people who can relate
Yeah.
because I was just like having drinks with an SVP last night, and he said to me that is exactly was a situation too.
Yep.
And it's funny because he also got into consulting, and consultancies look for those characteristics of people, believe it or not. The intelligent, the curious, but in order for you to actually put up with working long hours
Mhm.
and being so driven and worrying too much about clients, even though you're not making a ton of money in the big five, is you need to have that people pleasing personality inside you.
Mhm.
That's what I believe. And when I was in an environment where you have these partners, telling you that, oh, you need to have this pride and you need to work your butt off in order to be successful. Um, it just forced me to become a chameleon. And
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
forced me to put my head down, just keep delivering, 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 and not taking a moment and asking myself, well, all of these different projects that I've worked on, this insane variety, do I even like any of them? Which ones do I actually like? Because I didn't feel that I had a choice. You're just staffed on a project. You have no say on what project to get on because they sold, a deal with a big company. And so now they staff you. You can't have the audacity to even say no. You're programmed to constantly adapt rather than look within. You're programmed to
Mhm.
constantly like listen to, okay, what are the client problems out there, what is the market trend, and just keep shoving yourself into that box.
I think of also one area that we get so much of our conditioning is school. I was just thinking about how
Oh my
when
God.
you're talking about this, I was thinking about how in school I didn't know this, but I had ADHD. I've had it my whole life.
Yeah.
And I think that many members of my family probably do, and they've never been diagnosed because it's, partially genetic. And
Yeah.
so I had ADHD and I didn't know. I just knew that I had a hard time like sitting still or I would daydream.
Wow.
And I felt like it was kind of partially it was like an escape to just like look out the window and daydream and like turn that tree that I'm seeing into a dinosaur or something like that in my imagination. But there was this kind of there was this theme throughout classroom after classroom was you sit still and you listen and you absorb it, you take it in, and then you go off on your own and you do some work. And it wasn't really about how you individually learn, how you individually want to actually produce the work after you've learned it. There wasn't a sense of how to learn in community. It was just like this one top down kind of
Yeah.
model. I mean, at least when I was growing up, maybe it's a little different now, I hope.
I
But
hope.
I do. And but it's not individualistic. And so
Mhm.
we have been conditioned throughout our lives to not be individuals, to blend in with the crowd, to blend in with the room. This is I want to say that this is universal across cultures because I've had a lot of clients come
Yeah.
to me to say, I think it's because of my culture that I don't like to stand out and I don't like to sell myself and I like to blend in. But I've heard that from people from all different cultures.
I agree with you.
Every single culture that I've cultural background of clients that I've worked with have said the exact same thing. And I think it's when you really start to look at yourself as an individual, as that category of one, as being able to provide some kind of unique value. And look, we're not talking about how well you know Excel. Can you do a V lookup or something in Excel? And like that's your differentiating factor. It isn't like that. It's more about like how you listen, how you absorb information, how you make other people feel too. I mean, it could be these really invisible things that we don't think of that make us very unique and our own, or just our own flavor. We all have our own flavor, that secret sauce, but we've been learned or taught for so long that it's really more about how well you can work with others. Like, do you remember, I don't know if you if your postcards, your grades, when you were a kid, if there was one option or one category that was works and plays well with others, that's, and you get a mark on that. That's kind of what we've been conditioned to do, is to
Yeah.
work and play well with others. I'm not saying that being an individual means that you don't work and play well with others, but doing it from a sense of individuality, not just, that you're blending in with the walls.
Absolutely. Like, look, I don't expect all clients to have that mindset where they want to be leaders, because I also think like if we had a world full of, everyone was a leader and everyone was, an A player, it's probably going to be a tough world.
Oh, agreed. Agreed.
But the
There's
type
already a lot of competition at that level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although I also don't believe in competition, because I believe that, I mean, if you think about it, we're kind of role modeling it, right? We both work with executives, but we don't feel like we're competitors, because
No, no, no.
we both feel like we're good. We have our own category, right?
Mhm.
We both have our own sort of thing that we do better than the other, and I truly believe in that. And when you have that mindset, which is what I call like figuring out what your career sweet spot is, your zone of genius, then you're never going to feel like anyone is a threat. You're going to feel like they're complementary. But I
Yeah,
also
100%
understand
agree.
that not everyone has that thirst and hunger to grow.
Mhm.
Okay. And I generally only work well with people who have that thirst and hunger to grow. If I get someone who comes to me and says, you know what, I just treat my job, it's a 9 to 5, as long as I get paid and it's fine, I don't have to be absolutely challenged. I don't have to
Yeah.
get along with everyone, and I just go home to my family and I have extracurricular activities that I do outside of work.
Mhm.
That's good enough for me. Those types of people, we don't tend to click. Not that there's anything wrong.
Yeah,
My niche is just not aligned with those types of people.
I agree. And I would say that mine falls into a similar camp because I've always been that person. I mean, from the time I was a child, I was always that person that knew that someone could grow or do more for themselves if they got out of their own way and allowed themselves to do that. Like I even think about how, I would say things to my grandmother growing up, and then she would say something like, "Oh, well, I'm just too old to understand that." Like she would really put herself in this box. And
Goodness.
I've never wanted to be that person. And
Yeah.
maybe it comes from some of my family upbringing where I would see that people would make excuses for not actually taking action or facing their fears or doing something really difficult. But I've always been that person. That's why my mom says that I have an old soul, because I was that kid who's like, no, but if you really believe in yourself, you can do it.
How old were you when you said that?
I don't know, 8.
Oh my goodness.
Like I always felt that things were possible, which is really interesting. And so I think that that's why I love to work with those kinds of people, because I know that people are always talking themselves out of their dreams.
Yeah.
And when someone said, and like, look, maybe someone's dream is a 9 to 5 job, and it's, absolutely what they want to do, and they're really good at what they do, and that works really well for their lifestyle and personality. That's so great. And there is a coach for them. But I also feel like, because of the way that I've always been, this kind of like potential,
Mm.
things can be better. That you have a dream that you're talking yourself out of. Those are the types of people that I really love to work with, who, folks who really know that they want more. They're just kind of standing in their own way a little bit because they don't really understand that that it really is possible, because we hear so many words of caution, culturally speaking, like, you don't ever major in this because you can never get a job after that,
Mhm.
or don't become an artist because whatever, right? There's just way too much competition. It's all about the competition, or only pursue engineering because that's where you're going to make money, and all of that, as if like that is the measure of happiness.
Yeah. And what I'll say, in a world that is full of AI at the moment, if you think about products that are out there and you think about the market, what AI is doing is that it's collapsing the middle market. So think about like whatever stores out there, in the middle tier, competing with, let's say, the Walmarts, right?
Hmm.
So Walmart has the ability to like produce products at scale and be able to lower their price. And so now all of these stores that are mediocre or sort of in the middle, right? They're going to get wiped, because when you're mediocre, you're always going to compete on price. And competing on price is not a good thing. Versus when you have products that are very differentiated, unique, one
Hmm.
of a kind, they're not price sensitive. People are willing to shell out regardless, right?
Right.
Like if you really want something so badly that is able to solve, something for you in a way that creates an amazing experience, you're going to be willing to pay more. And so this analogy actually is relevant to people who are looking for jobs.
Mm.
There's so many people out there, who might feel like, you know what, I'm not going to go for the moonshot role. I'm going to go for the mediocre role. I'm going to settle. And the way they're competing is based on volume,
Mhm.
based on watered down messaging, based
Yeah.
on watered down positioning,
Mm.
based on getting the same certification that everyone else is getting,
Yeah.
right? And so what's going to happen? Organizations have a lot of choice here, and they're going to go with the person who's willing to take the lowest salary for that role.
Race to the
Versus
bottom.
if Yeah, versus if you're positioning yourself, instead of being like the Walmart, trying to compete with the Walmart, and you're positioning yourself as a one of a kind person who communicates in an elevated way, who does the things that people are not willing to do, the hard things, meaning
Mhm.
look within, meaning put yourself out there, meaning
Yes.
network, meaning communicate in a elevated way,
Mm.
actually own your ideas versus rely on chat GPT to think for you, be a thought leader, be true, have ideas that come for you that are true and real,
Mhm.
versus fake ideas that you stole from someone else and slapped your name on. And
Yeah.
by the way, like if you think about resumes, right, a lot of people keep talking about resumes. Resume is one of the deliverables that demonstrate your thought leadership. And if you're going out and you're copying some template that some LinkedIn person said that works,
Yeah.
you're basically copying that person. You're a copycat. You're not a thought leader.
Right. Right.
And then the
Exactly.
ideas that you're putting in the resume, you're just going and getting them from the market. So you're like everyone else. So then why should a company
Yeah.
pay you more?
Exactly. And then when it comes time for interviewing, if you didn't really go through a robust process to do your resume, for example, then you will be in an interview and just probably you won't feel that confident, and you will deliver a message that will be unmemorable
Mhm.
because it's kind of vanilla. But if you can deliver a message knowing that there's so much to your story that you probably don't even give any credit to, you will come across as a memorable person, as somebody who really has a strong, unique viewpoint or value. And a lot of people don't really do that. And they jump from interview to interview, reinventing themselves every time they go to a new interview. And this is why, this is why I treat all of my clients like executives, because there is kind of an executive way of doing things, I think. And I'm not saying that every executive is great at this, because there's a reason why we work with executives, right? Not everybody has us down.
Well, not just that, like not all executives are great at what they do. This is why there are toxic environments and poor, collaboration and poor culture.
Yeah. Yeah. But and the way that I'm thinking about an executive mindset really just comes from the space of being that category of one and really understanding what your value is. And again, like not every executive is going to be really great at that. And I've worked with a lot of executives who they're really afraid to put themselves out there because they know that for whatever reason they've been kind of compromising because of the money, because of those golden handcuffs. And they know that there's something bigger, better, wilder out there for them,
Yeah.
and they are afraid to put themselves out there because they feel like they're a fraud because they're just putting themselves out there for what they've done before. And then they're afraid to talk to people because they don't really like, they know that they want something else, but they don't want to network because they don't exactly know how to define it. And so it keeps them in it within those golden handcuffs confines. And then at some point they're like, oh my God, something's got to change. And then maybe the fear, maybe their why shifts. And then that's when we start to work together. And it's really a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's so funny because when I was in the corporate world, a lot of the work that I did was actually in the transformation space. Um, some of the folks listening here might understand agile transformations. If
Mhm.
you're not in the agile world and don't understand it, then just think of like any transformation initiative at an organization where the organization is going through a change at the organization level, because maybe they're realizing that they're not competitive. I know like in the big banks, they compete a lot with each other. And one of the banks that I worked at, it was with basically the corporate, part of banking. They realized that they had their clients were having a very poor experience and their product was very outdated. So, in order for them to be able to build a disruptive product, it wasn't just about slapping a bunch of features and putting them together. It wasn't even about understanding what's out there in the market. It's also about creating systems and internal structures in place, bringing in great talent, even just changing the entire behavior of how people collaborate. And
Mhm.
so the organization had to look within in order to be able to do that, in order to get the moonshot, right?
Yep.
Clients.
Yep.
And so, you know, having been in the transformation space, I will say for 15 years, and then working with individuals who landed these moonshot roles with me, like, truck driver, no degree, landing at a gaming company, entrepreneur in Mexico, landing at Meta, um, or sorry, at Amazon, and then a client in policy landing at Meta AI. Um, those are insane, transformations. And I had to
Mhm.
reverse engineer and understand, well, how did that happen? How did these people achieve these things? Because I want to keep replicating it over and over and over again with clients.
Yeah.
So I started seeing a pattern, like a framework in terms of how this happens. Usually, the first thing that I notice is someone has like this reckoning. they've been in the same, world for many years, and they've been ignoring themselves, they've been ignoring it, they're just pushing through it, just like what I did.
Mhm.
And what happens is they get a wake up call because their body just won't allow them to keep going. Their body's like, I'm going to shut you down because you're not listening. That's what happened to me. I lost half of my pancreas. That's what happened with one of my executive clients. Her back started hurting because she was working with a narcissistic boss.
Yep.
That's what happened with one of my clients, Rachel, who's an assistant professor in theater. It wasn't so much, physical pain, but she had that aha moment where she was driving to a new campus and she realized, well, why am I uphauling my life and revolving my life around a job instead of the other way around? So
Mhm.
the reckoning is usually when people realize, well, something is off. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and then what happens is they they realize, well, why am I behaving this way? Why do I keep putting myself in these situations? And that's usually around the time that people come to us, right? And specifically come to me as well. And we realize that there are some childhood patterns and patterns from behaviors that they keep, basically doing that ends up in that situation. And those behaviors are tied to lack of boundaries.
Mm.
And when I say lack of boundaries, I don't mean to be like a therapist like person, although like what I'll say is a lot of like helping people uncover their career is psychological. But when I say boundaries, it comes from not understanding what makes you happy and what you need physically, intellectually. So, maybe you're the type of person who's not happy sitting on meetings all day. Maybe you're a builder and you're not building. You're in a role that doesn't allow you to build. You're in a role that doesn't allow you to be
Mhm.
strategic. You're in a role that doesn't allow you variability. And yeah, you're maybe in a role that's impeding in your personal stuff that's going on. You can't be with your kids. You can't do the things that you want outside of work. So that's the boundary part of my reinvention framework. And then the last two, I call them the alliance and then the architecture. So, in order to be successful through the reinvention process and land that moonshot role, yes, you have to understand yourself and you have to build your brand and positioning and all of that. But if you don't have allies, if you don't have a support system, if you don't create a network around you, then you're
Mhm.
not going to be able to get that traction. And the allyship comes from not just networking and having people who are like-minded become your board of advisors,
Mhm.
which by the way comes from an authentic brand. Because if you're lying and using fake stuff in your messaging and watering yourself down, then you're not going to attract people who are like-minded. But in addition to that, getting a mentor who helps you through this. I'm that mentor for a lot of my clients, and I've had mentors too to
Mhm.
help me through my own reinvention. And then we start architecting, the life that we want, the career that we want, versus chasing what's out there in the market that's not going to make us happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that sense of chasing is something that if whenever or if ever I work with a client who I can see is doing that, I remind them that it's not about the chase.
Yeah.
It's about alignment and vision and your unique value. And when people know that, like your allies, they will go to bat for you. It's like, if you were to say to a friend, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. And then they ask you, well, what are you looking for? Oh, I could maybe do this or that or this or that, and there's just kind of like this sundry list of things. How is that person really going to feel like you are serious about this
Yeah.
and that they can help you? Then they start to throw some ideas your way and none of them fit. And then they're going to kind of get fed up with trying to help. I see that happen all the time. So when you do know what how you're branding yourself, how you're positioning yourself, that is like the strongest kind of networking you can do and
Mm,
allyship you can build. And I think that this is the reason why a lot of people at a certain level do not like to tap their network. They will not tap their network because they know how strong their networks are. They know how busy these people are. They know how successful these people are. I mean, like, I've worked with people who have some really amazing connections, like
wow, yeah.
mayors of cities and things like that. Um, and so when they don't feel really confident in what they know what they want, they will not build those allies.
Yeah.
And I find that that is then another reason why they stay stuck.
I'm laughing because it reminds me of a situation that I personally encountered where I was sort of like a huge fan of this entrepreneur. He was doing things that I wanted to do, and I sent him a message and I said, "Hey, what would it take for you to be my mentor?" And he said, "You can ask me here, right?" And it took me months to actually ask him a question because I didn't want to sound dumb. Because this is like
Yeah.
a big, big guy. Like the fact that he responded to my message is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't know what I wanted. So for me, what am I going to ask? I don't want to be silly. And so this is why it is important to figure out like what is it that you want? What is your career sweet spot and what is it that you want? What is your target?
Yeah. People can really sniff out that you don't know what you want. And I think that folks who know that then are afraid to put themselves out there. And so this
Yeah.
is why they work with people like us, because we can really help them better define and articulate what they want and what their value is, how they want to change the world. Sometimes I work with people who want to change the whole world. And it's amazing aligning myself with those kinds of people and helping them be successful. I think that that's kind of what my purpose is in life, is to help others look good, to help others, do what they want to do and
Yeah.
get off the couch, and get these things done.
And I totally missed some of the awesome comments here because I did not have that. Gosh, StreamYard, get your act together. Have a better user interface. um, but
But you
I
have
like
to go, right? Because you've got a call now, or
in 2 minutes. It's okay.
okay,
We're
okay,
just gonna quickly answer this before we go.
okay. Sounds good.
But here's my first question. With AI evolving so fast, what's more valuable for future proofing careers? Deep technical expertise or strong strategic leadership skills? I'll quickly answer and then I'll pass it on to you, Jessica.
Sure.
I think we got to just stop worrying too much about things like AI and what technical skills do I need. I think I don't care what field you are in, all of these skills are vehicles to
Mm-hmm.
your destination. Where
Yeah.
you want to actually start is what do I want to help people with to achieve what result? So, okay, you're obsessed over AI. Why? Do you want to transform the health system because it's so horrible and you've gone through it and you've seen people die? And then AI is your vehicle, right? So always think about go from what do I want to help people with versus what skills do I need in
Yeah.
order to be successful.
Exactly. What are your bigger visions? How do you want to apply those skills, right? Like I was saying, I was talking about Excel earlier, and I know some people are like, Excel is dead. But anyway, I saw a post about that the other day. But
You're giving me the
I just
Deloitte
mentioned Excel.
PTSD of using Excel.
Just because you know how to use Excel doesn't mean that the way that you think about things The
Mm.
way that you tell stories from data
Yes.
is going to be the same. So I
Hmm.
think really understanding it's not just about skills, but how you apply them and
Yeah.
how you want to show up and what kind of people you want to ally yourselves with so that you can get these big things done. Because it's not, I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who, at some stage in their career, it's not about getting another job. It's about fulfilling a mission or a purpose. And sometimes it's actually not even getting another job. It
Yeah.
maybe it's, like for you also, Nada, because I know that you work with people who want to do public speaking, who want to serve on boards, who want to make some difference in some other way. Maybe they want to write a book. It's not just about what job you get, it's about that mission and that purpose that you want to fulfill.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's like you got to ask yourself why do I want to do this, right?
Yeah.
And then in terms of differentiation, like there's market positioning and there's also differentiation. Obviously both are important.
Mhm.
People confuse market positioning with I just want to see what the demand is in the market. But a lot of times, a lot of the innovative things that have been launched weren't because the market said they wanted them. Like Ford says, right? If I listened to people, I wouldn't have created cars, I would have had horses with carriages.
Mhm.
So if you listen too much to the market, then you're not actually going to innovate. There's a
Mhm.
balance here. You need to see that there's opportunity here with people struggling with something. The
Mhm.
how usually doesn't come from the market. The approach comes from you as an innovator.
Yes. Exactly. And that's where you differentiate yourself when you're having conversations, let's call them interviews, right? It could be any kind of conversation that helps people know that you're aligning with what they need and vice
Yeah.
versa.
And then, a lot of the differentiation. So there's the market positioning, and then the differentiation is be real. The most differentiating thing you can ever do is to
Mhm.
be real. And the realest thing you can ever do is to actually tell your story, because your lived experiences are what actually make you unique, not skills, not quoting certifications or quoting skills or even teaching people what to do or telling them what to do, especially when you're answering an interview question. It's actually tying it to a lived experience,
Yeah.
AKA your story, right?
Yes. And if you don't know what that story is, your interviews are gonna be bland, and that's what
Boring.
happens over and over and over again, and then it's like you get one interview after the next, and you go to the web and or AI, and I mean, there's a lot of really great prep that you can do with AI. I'm not demonizing it necessarily, but it all still has to come from you. You have to be able to defend what's on your resume or what you say about yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And true story. I mean, I launched my business from 0 to 1. I don't get clients by sending out a resume. I tell
No,
my story.
exactly.
People can relate to me. They send me a message. And then in 2024, how I pivoted from just helping professionals to helping business owners was a founder, really loved my story. He got me on his podcast. He came on my podcast, and then he literally pitched me like basically an offer to work with him.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm talking about. He loved my story. He loved my unique approach. He loved my bold, contrarian perspectives.
Mhm.
The more contrarian you are, the more truthful you are about your perspective, the more honest you are about what you want. That's how you can reinvent yourself
Yeah.
and be able to land those moonshot roles.
Amazing.
All right. Thank you, Jessica.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. This is always so fun.
Thank you, everyone. Please do us a favor, like if you found this useful. If you have any ideas for future, pieces of lives and content, truly appreciate this. Really appreciate you, spreading the word so that someone who really needs this can see it. That's how the algorithm works. And
Mhm.
I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.